Clint Eastwood walked into the small, upscale restaurant he had recently purchased. Known for his sharp instincts and no-nonsense approach, he had decided to observe the place unannounced, blending in with the lunch crowd to see how things ran on a normal day. Wearing a well-worn leather jacket and a baseball cap pulled low over his face, he looked like any other customer, though there was a quiet authority in his demeanor. He chose a table near the window and settled in, scanning the room with sharp eyes. The place was bustling with energy, the hum of conversations mixing with the clatter of plates and the occasional laugh. Everything seemed in order, at least on the surface. He waited patiently for someone to approach him. Lisa, a waitress in her late 20s, spotted Clint sitting alone at her table. She wasn't particularly excited about taking his order. Lisa had worked at the restaurant for a couple of years and had grown tired of the long hours demanding customers and the constant hustle. Her sharp tongue and short temper had earned her a reputation among the staff as someone not to mess with. She grabbed her notepad and approached Clint's table, her expression a mix of boredom and irritation. "What can I get you?" she asked flatly, barely making eye contact. Clint looked up, his piercing blue eyes meeting hers. "I'll have the house special," he said in his calm, gravelly voice. "But could you hold the sauce on the side? I'm not a big fan of it." Lisa sighed audibly, tapping her pen against her notepad. "We don't do special request for the house special," she replied, her tone sharp. "If you don't like it, maybe pick something else." Clint raised an eyebrow, surprised by her tone. "It's just a small change. Surely that's not too much trouble." Her patience, already thin, snapped. "Look, I don't make the rules. If you want to complain, maybe take it up with the owner. Oh wait, he's never here, so good luck." With that, she smirked, turning on her heel before he could respond. Clint sat back, a faint smile playing on his lips. He didn't say a word, just watched her walk away. For the rest of his meal, Lisa barely acknowledged him, dropping off his plate without a word and never returning to check if he needed anything else. Clint ate quietly, observing the interactions around him. He noticed Lisa being curt with other customers, her demeanor far from welcoming. It was clear she was unhappy with her job, but that didn't excuse her behavior. After finishing his meal, Clint left a generous tip on the table, despite the poor service, and walked out. Lisa, seeing the tip as she cleared the table, muttered, under her breath, "At least he wasn't cheap." Later that day, the restaurant staff gathered for an unexpected meeting. The general manager, looking unusually nervous, called everyone to the dining area. "We've got a special announcement," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "The owner of the restaurant is here to speak with us." The room buzzed with whispers. Most of the staff had never met the mysterious owner, who was known to stay behind the scenes. Lisa crossed her arms, uninterested. She figured it would just be some rich businessman giving a generic pep talk about customer service and profits. Then Clint Eastwood walked in. The room fell silent as every jaw dropped. Lisa froze, her heart pounding as she realized who he was. Clint took off his cap, revealing the iconic face that had graced countless films. His steely gaze swept the room, lingering briefly on Lisa before moving on. He stepped forward, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the room. "Good afternoon," he began, his voice calm but firm. "I wanted to stop by and see how things are running here. This restaurant represents my name now, and I take that very seriously." He paused, letting his words sink in. The staff stood in stunned silence, some exchanging nervous glances. Lisa felt a knot tightening in her stomach. "I had lunch here today," Clint continued, his gaze now fixed directly on Lisa. "And let's just say, it wasn't the experience I was hoping for." The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Lisa's face turned bright red as every eye turned toward her. Clint didn't raise his voice or show anger, but his disappointment was palpable. "Let me make something clear," he said. "Every customer who walks through those doors deserves respect. Whether they're here for a quick bite or celebrating something special, they chose to spend their time and money here, and how they're treated will determine whether they come back." Clint's eyes softened slightly as he added, "I understand this job isn't always easy." I've worked hard jobs too, and I know what it's like to deal with difficult people. But that doesn't give us the right to be dismissive or rude. It's about pride in what we do and how we treat others. As the days turned into weeks, Lisa's transformation at the restaurant became more apparent. Her once sharp and impatient demeanor had softened, replaced by genuine smiles and thoughtful service. Customers who had previously avoided her section began requesting her specifically, drawn to the warmth and attentiveness she now displayed. Her co-workers, initially skeptical of her sudden change, found themselves inspired by her determination to improve. Lisa wasn't just making an effort, she was rebuilding her reputation one interaction at a time. Clint Eastwood's surprise visit had left a lasting impression on everyone in the restaurant. His calm yet authoritative words had struck a chord, reminding the staff of the pride and responsibility that came with their jobs. His presence lingered in the air, almost as if he were still watching over the place. Lisa, in particular, felt a deep sense of accountability, knowing she had been given an opportunity to redeem herself. One day, a regular customer, Mrs. Turner, an older woman who always came in with her husband, pulled Lisa aside after finishing her meal. "I've been coming here for years," she said with a warm smile, "and I have to say you've really turned things around. You remind me of why I fell in love with this place in the first place. Keep it up, dear." Those words stayed with Lisa long after Mrs. Turner left. It wasn't just about being a better employee anymore. It was about becoming a better person. She started taking pride in the small things like remembering a customer's favorite dish or offering a kind word to someone who looked like they were having a tough day. The job she had once dreaded now felt meaningful. Clint returned to the restaurant a few months later. This time during a quieter afternoon, Lisa immediately recognized him, her heart racing as she prepared to greet him. She approached his table with a genuine smile and a newfound confidence. "Welcome back, Mr. Eastwood," she said warmly. "It's an honor to have you here again. What can I get for you today?" Clint looked up from the menu, his eyes studying her for a moment. A faint smile crossed his face. "I'll have the house special," he said, pausing for effect, "with the sauce on the side." Lisa laughed softly, a hint of nervousness in her tone. "Coming right up," she said, grateful for the opportunity to show him how much she had changed. She made sure everything about his meal was perfect, from the plating to the timing, and even went out of her way to check on him halfway through to ensure he was enjoying it. When Clint finished his meal, he left another generous tip and asked to speak with Lisa before leaving. She approached his table, unsure of what to expect but ready for whatever he had to say. "You've come a long way," Clint said, his voice steady and sincere. "I can see it in the way you carry yourself, the way you interact with people. This place feels different, and I think you had a lot to do with that." Lisa felt a lump in her throat, her eyes welling with tears. "Thank you, Mr. Eastwood. Your words that day, they really woke me up. I didn't realize how much my attitude was affecting everyone around me. I'm just grateful I had the chance to make things right." Clint nodded, his iconic half-smile appearing once again. "That's all anyone can ask for. You took the lesson and ran with it. I'm proud of you." The weight of his words hit Lisa like a wave of gratitude and validation. She realized this wasn't just about her redemption, in his eyes. It was about the sense of self-worth she had regained through hard work and reflection. Clint stood shaking her hand firmly before leaving the restaurant, his quiet presence leaving an indelible mark once again. Over time, Lisa's story became something of a legend among the restaurant staff. New hires would hear about the waitress, who had insulted Clint Eastwood, only to turn her life around and become one of the most beloved members of the team. Her journey served as a reminder that no matter how far you stray, there's always a way back if you're willing to put in the effort. Lisa eventually moved on from the restaurant, pursuing her dream of opening a small cafe of her own. She carried the lessons she had learned with her, creating a space where kindness, respect, and second chances were at the heart of everything. She even named one of the menu items the Eastwood Special, as a tribute to the man who had unknowingly changed her life. Clint Eastwood, though a busy man with countless projects and responsibilities, occasionally stopped by the cafe when he was in town. He would sit at a corner table, quietly enjoying his meal while Lisa worked behind the counter. She would always make time to chat with him, grateful for his continued support and the wisdom he had shared. Lisa's cafe quickly gained a reputation as one of the most welcoming spots in town. Word spread about her journey from an embittered waitress to a successful business owner who genuinely cared about her customers. Locals admired her resilience, while visitors were drawn in by the charm of the cafe and its unique backstory. The Eastwood Special became the most popular item on the menu, not just because of its delicious flavors, but because of the inspiring tale behind it. Lisa made sure that her cafe was more than just a place to grab a coffee or a meal. It was a community. She took the lessons she'd learned from her time at the restaurant, particularly from Clint Eastwood's visit, and applied them to every aspect of her business. She trained her staff to treat every customer with respect and empathy, and she cultivated an environment where kindness was the currency that mattered most. Clint remained an occasional but loyal customer. He never announced his visits in advance, simply appearing in his understated way and quietly observing the life that thrived in the cafe. One afternoon, during one of his visits, he sat at his usual corner table, sipping on a coffee while watching Lisa work. The once impatient and sharp-tongued woman now moved through the cafe with effortless grace, her demeanor warm and inviting. As she brought over a slice of the cafe's signature pie for him, Lisa took a seat across from Clint, something she had never felt confident enough to do before. "You've been a part of this journey more than you probably realize," Lisa began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "When I think back to who I was that day in the restaurant, I'm almost embarrassed. But you didn't just call me out, you gave me a chance to be better. And for that, I can never thank you enough." Clint looked at her with a calm smile, his eyes reflecting both pride and humility. "You know, Lisa, I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just gave you a mirror to look into. You did the hard part. You chose to change." Lisa nodded, her throat tightening with emotion. "Still, I owe so much of this to you. This cafe, the life I've built, none of it would have been possible if you hadn't walked into that restaurant that day." Clint chuckled softly, his voice carrying the weight of wisdom. "Life's funny that way. Sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest moments. All it takes is the right nudge at the right time." Their conversation was interrupted briefly as a customer approached to thank Lisa for creating such a welcoming space. Clint watched, with quiet admiration as Lisa graciously accepted the compliment, her face lighting up with genuine gratitude. As the cafe buzzed with life, Clint looked around and then back at Lisa. "You know, this place reminds me of why I wanted to own that restaurant in the first place," he said. "It wasn't about the food or the business, it was about creating something that brings people together. You've done that here, Lisa. You've made something special." Those words stayed with Lisa long after Clint left that day. She realized that her story wasn't just about redemption, it was about paying forward the kindness and lessons she had received. Inspired by Clint's encouragement, she decided to start a mentorship program at her cafe, offering young people an opportunity to work, learn, and grow in a supportive environment. Over time, Lisa's cafe became a cornerstone of the community. It hosted charity events, supported local artists, and provided a safe space for anyone who needed it. Lisa's story of transformation became an integral part of the cafe's identity, inspiring customers and staff alike. Years later, as Lisa stood behind the counter watching her bustling cafe, she spotted a familiar figure walking through the door. Clint, now a bit older but still carrying that same quiet strength, stepped inside. Lisa greeted him warmly, her heart swelling with gratitude. "This place is everything I hoped it would be," Clint said, taking in the lively atmosphere. "You've done good, Lisa, real good." Lisa smiled, her eyes misting with emotion. "I just hope I've made you proud." Clint placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice as steady as ever. "You've done more than that. You've reminded
me why I believe in second chances." As Clint enjoyed his coffee in the company of an old friend, Lisa realized just how far she had come. Her journey had started with a mistake, but it had led her to a life filled with purpose, connection,
and pride. And it all began with one fateful encounter with a man who saw not just her flaws, but her potential. In that moment, Lisa knew that her story wasn't just about her. It was about the power of growth, redemption, and the simple act of believing in someone even when they couldn't yet believe in themselves. As the years went by, Lisa's Cafe became a hub for inspiration and change, growing beyond its role as just a business. It became a symbol of transformation and resilience, attracting people not just for its food, but for the stories it held within its walls. Lisa would often recount her journey to customers, especially those who seemed lost or unsure of their path. Her humility in admitting her faults, coupled with her determination to grow, touched countless lives. Clint Eastwood remained a frequent visitor, though his visits became less about checking in and more about enjoying the warmth and camaraderie of the cafe. Whenever he entered, there was a quiet ripple of recognition among customers, many of whom were awestruck by the legendary actor-director casually sipping coffee in their midst. Clint, however, always brushed off any attention, preferring to sit quietly and soak in the atmosphere. One day during one of his visits, Clint brought along a young actor he was mentoring. The actor was struggling to find his footing in Hollywood, burdened by self-doubt and the pressure to succeed. Clint thought of Lisa immediately, knowing her story was exactly what his mentee needed to hear. "Lisa," Clint called her over as she made her rounds. "I'd like you to meet someone. This is Evan. He's a good kid, but he's been feeling like the world's against him lately." Lisa took a seat at their table, smiling warmly at Evan. "I know that feeling all too well," she said. "But let me tell you something. Sometimes when it feels like the world's against you, it's actually just waiting to see how badly you want to fight back." Evan listened intently as Lisa shared her story, from the day she insulted Clint, without knowing who he was, to the life-changing impact of his calm but powerful words. She spoke about the shame she felt, but also the hope and drive that emerged from being given a second chance. When someone believes in you, even when you don't believe in yourself, it's a gift, Lisa said. But what you do with that gift, that's what defines you. Clint watched the exchange with a satisfied smile, knowing Lisa's words carried weight because they were lived. Evan left the cafe that day with a renewed sense of purpose, promising himself he would keep pushing forward. Lisa's mentorship program also began to flourish. She opened her doors to troubled teens, people in recovery, and those seeking a fresh start. Many of them reminded her of herself in her earlier days, angry, frustrated, and unsure of their worth. She offered them not just jobs but guidance, teaching them the value of kindness, hard work, and self-respect. Over time, Lisa's Cafe gained national attention. A local journalist wrote a feature about the cafe with a heart, and soon, the story went viral. Lisa was invited to share her journey on talk shows and podcasts, always making sure to credit Clint Eastwood for being the catalyst for her transformation. When asked why he had intervened that day in the restaurant, Clint's answer was simple. "I saw someone who needed a nudge. Sometimes that's all it takes to change a life." Years later, Lisa's Cafe expanded into a second location, and then a third. Each one carried the same welcoming spirit and community focus as the original. Lisa insisted on being hands-on with every new opening, ensuring that her vision and values were upheld. One day, Clint attended the grand opening of her third cafe. By then he was well into his 90s, but his presence was as commanding as ever. Lisa stood beside him during the ribbon-cutting ceremony, tears streaming down her face as she looked out at the crowd. "I wouldn't be standing here today if it weren't for this man," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and because of that I've been able to pay it forward in ways I never imagined." Clint, ever humble, waved off the applause directed at him. "You did the work, Lisa," he said simply. "I just reminded you what you were capable of." As the crowd cheered and cameras flashed, Lisa realized how profoundly her life had changed since that fateful day in the restaurant. What started as a moment of shame had blossomed into a legacy of hope and renewal, not just for her, but for everyone her cafe had touched. Clint's quiet mentorship and Lisa's relentless determination had created something bigger than either of them could have imagined. a testament to the power of second chances and the ripple effect of kindness. And as they stood side by side, the grizzled Hollywood legend and the once-lost waitress turned community leader, it was clear that their story wasn't just about redemption. It was about how one act of belief can spark a lifetime of change.